Welcome. My name is Opio Bright, student at Kampala International University, pursuing a Bachelor's of Computer Science with Education. I'll be taking you through this session and we shall look at a certain concept in computer. Therefore, be willing and eager to learn something by the end of this session. So our concept is the computer memory, and we shall tackle different things concerning the computer memory. By the end of the session, you will be knowing different things concerning the computer memory. So our learning objectives are as follows: to define and explain the computer memory, to understand the different types of the computer memory, and to understand the functions of the computer memory. Now, our learning outcomes include the ability to define and explain the computer memory, identify at least 2 types of a computer memory, ability to explain at least 4 functions of a computer memory, as we shall have many, but at least by the end of the session, you'll be able to explain at least 4 of them. So our teaching methods are lecture-based, and the other one will be narrative method of assessment will be through the take-home assignments and the self-test tasks that I will assign to you at the end of the session. So now let's start with our content, and let's begin with the introduction part of it, that is introduction to the computer memory. Starting by the definition, a computer memory is a component of a computer system that enables it to store and retrieve instructions efficiently. It enables the computer system to retrieve and store the information. It is an essential part or component that enables the computer to retrieve, to store the information, and its primary purpose is to hold the data that is actively being processed by the CPU, and therefore, without the memory, the computer would not be able to perform tasks or store the necessary information for processing. Yes, when a computer doesn't have a memory, it may not be able to perform its tasks assigned to it, or when it has a non-functioning memory, it will not perform its tasks effectively. Therefore, it is crucial and it is vital component of the computer for its functionality. And now, let's look at the types of the computer memory. They are basically 4, as we shall look at them one by one. And the first one is the primary memory. The primary memory is also known as the volatile memory, as we shall look at it in details as we continue with our learning. The other type is the secondary memory. This one is also known as the non-volatile memory. The third one is the cache memory. This one is the smallest and the fastest kind of memory in the computer memory functionality. And then the other one is the read-only memory, or you can term it as the ROM, as we shall look at them one by one in details. The kinds of memory is now related to this, but let us look at these ones in details. Now, let's look at the primary memory or the volatile memory. This is also known as the random access memory, and it is the memory used to store data and instructions that are currently in use by the CPU. It stores the information that is currently in use by the CPU as it is processing. As you enter the instructions into the computer, it is initially stored on the RAM or the primary memory, the random access memory, because it is easily accessed by the CPU. And this information is not stored permanently, but it is stored there temporarily, because it is going to be used by the CPU. And the key features of primary memory include volatile or volatility. This means data is lost when power is turned off. When you turn off the power, all the information, all the instructions on the RAM is lost, as long as it wasn't saved. That's one feature. The other feature is fast. RAM offers quick access to data, which is essential for the CPU's operation. As I told you, it is easily accessed by the CPU. Therefore, it offers quick access to data. The CPU finds the data, the instructions quickly from the RAM. And then let's go ahead and look at the types of primary memory. Number one, we have the dynamic RAM, or as abbreviated DRAM. This one needs to be refreshed continuously to retain the data. You need to, as you're operating the computer, you need to refresh so oftenly and continuously to retain the data onto it. And then the other one is the static RAM or SRAM. This one is faster and more reliable than DRAM, but not this. It is expensive and uses more power. This is static RAM. It is faster and more reliable than the dynamic, but again it's expensive and uses more power. This is how the RAM look like. And these figures are all the images. That's how the RAM looks like. Now, let's look at the secondary memory or the non-volatile memory. Now, the secondary memory refers to the long-term storage devices that retain data even when the power is off. It is typically much slower than the primary memory, but offers larger storage capacity. Yes, for this secondary memory, for it stores the information even when the power is off, even when the computer goes off, for the information is not lost, and it offers larger storage capacity. This is due to the fact that it is you, the user, who know what capacity you need for your work, and they do vary, starting from 1 GB, 2 GB, 3 GB, 64 GB, to mention but a few. And this time, the examples are here in the figure. We have the CD, the hard disk, the floppy disk, the memory cards, SD cards. We have the pen drives, and so on and so forth. So these ones are mostly favorable if you want to store the data permanently, and storing sensitive information, because it is not easily lost even when the power goes off. So these ones are the examples, and you can look at them in the figure below. Let us look at the cache memory. A cache memory is a small high-speed storage area located within or close to the CPU, and it is frequently accessed. It stores frequently accessed data to reduce the time it takes to retrieve information from the main memory. This cache memory, it is an area within or close to the CPU that stores the frequently accessed data. Altogether, it is the smallest unit of memory that is within or close to the CPU, and it helps reduce the time the CPU might use to access the information from the main memory. Now, the cache memory is classified in two levels, and that is the L1 cache, that is the smallest and fastest, located closest to the CPU. The L1 is this area that is closest to the CPU, that is L1. And then we have the L2 cache. This is larger than the L1 but slower than the L1, but still it is faster than the RAM. And then the other one is the L3 cache. This is also larger than L2 and L1, typically shared by multiple CPU cores. And this is how the cache memory might look if you happen to look onto the motherboard. You can look at the figure up there. Let us now look at the read-only memory, or the ROM. ROM is an non-volatile memory used to store firmware or software that is permanently programmed into the system. This ROM, it is inbuilt, and it stores the information. It is the information that is stored there. It is by default, and it is not edited. You cannot edit the information on the ROM because it's read only. You can only read, but you cannot tamper with it unless you are the developer, or you are the engineer of that system, of that software, because it is a software that is permanently programmed into the system. Take for example, when you power on your computer or whichever type, it brings that initial information that it brings, be it if it was a phone. Let's take, when you power it on, it brings Nokia, if we are told it was a Nokia phone, or Samsung Galaxy, or if it is a computer, the Dell, the HP, that you cannot edit it. It is by default together. So the examples include the BIOS or firmware on the motherboard together. So this is how the RAM looks like. I mean the ROM, the read-only memory on the motherboard. That's how it looks like. And now let's go ahead and differentiate between the RAM and ROM. We see how do they differ. On the RAM stores data temporarily. As I told you, the data stored there is temporary, and it can be lost. It can be lost when the system goes off, or when the power goes off, which is not the case on the other side. The ROM stores data permanently. So that's the first difference between these two. The other one is the volatility. RAM is volatile, meaning the information is lost when the power goes off, while the ROM is non-volatile. The information is not lost when the power goes off. That's what it means by non-volatile. Then the other difference is data can be read from and written to RAM. Meaning for RAM information you can edit it and you can read, but which is not the case with the ROM. For the ROM, it is typically read only and cannot be edited or modified in any way. The other one is the RAM is faster and the ROM is slower. Yes, because the information on the RAM is accessed easily by the CPU, which is not the case to the ROM. The ROM is slower. You can see when you're trying to power on the system, it takes some minutes before it does power on. And now let us look at the functions of a computer memory. Function number 1, storage of data and instructions. It is on the memory, and it is a role of the memory to store the information that has been processed or being processed by the CPU or the computer. The RAM stores the information that is currently in use, and afterwards it is stored on the secondary memory after it has been processed. So that's a role of the memory. And the other function is retrieval of information. The CPU is able to retrieve information as it processes, and this is mostly a function for the RAM, where the CPU retrieves information from it. The other function is the temporary storage, and this is basically done by the RAM. As I told you, the RAM stores information temporarily as it is currently in use by the CPU, and the information is lost or instruction is lost when the system goes off. So it stores the information temporarily. And the other one is the permanent storage, and this is done by the ROM. It is a role of the ROM to store the ROM and the secondary storage to store information permanently, because we said on the secondary memory information is stored permanently, and also on the ROM the information is permanent. And then the other one is data transfer between the components. Yes, it is memory is used to transfer the information from one component to another. Yes, I think that's clear. Now, let's have some questions that you do in your free time. Question number 1, you can get where to write is define and explain the computer memory. And this is, we have already done that, hoping that you will do that. And then number 2, explain 2 types of computer memory. Explain 2 types of computer memory. We looked at several types of computer memory. Therefore, we will explain at least 2 of them. And then identify 4 functions of a computer memory. This is what we have just looked at. And now you can go further and test yourself on these questions. List the levels of cache memory, and then differentiate between RAM and the ROM. Now, in conclusion, computer memory is the backbone of computing, basically the modern computing. It facilitates everything from temporary data storage in RAM to longer-term storage on hard drives and SSDs, and understanding the different types of memory, including the volatile and non-volatile options, and their functions, including storage of data and instruction, retrieval of information, permanent storage using the ROM, and secondary storage devices. This improves the performance of the computer system. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thanks for being a good learner. I hope you have learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and also go ahead and give me a like so that you may be in position to be updated on various concepts in computer. Thank you. May God bless you abundantly.